In today's episode, I speak with Shelby Farrell, and we talk about cannabis use among runners. This has been a topic that's been a little stigmatized over the years, especially when I was a kid. It's interesting now to see it growing, becoming legalized in more states. Shelby is an advocate for cannabis use while running for various reasons, and today we dive into that. So check it out. Also, check out the description and buy some stickers and stuff from us and support the show. How and why did you start using cannabis?
Cool. Hey, Derrick, what's up?
Hey, what's up?
Yeah, cannabis. It's fun. Let's talk about it. So, I I think I smoked weed for the first time when I was maybe in seventh grade, because there was a cute boy and we were on a beach and I don't know, it seemed like a fun thing to do. And I don't remember anything particularly crazy from that moment other than having a really great chill beach day with friends. And I wouldn't say that I became a huge stoner from that point on. In fact, like, let's definitely talk about the word stoner at some point, because I think that there's like a weird stigma against people who use weed in general, but would smoke when mostly cute boys offered me weed through high school and college. And then it was some point after college that I was like, no, I like this. This has become a part of who I am, and it's my substance of choice. I'm not a big drinker. Drinking doesn't help with my performance at all in any way, but cannabis doesn't hurt it. So it just became something that I did as a fun extracurricular, and as an individual who can tend to overthink things and maybe be a little high strung, it's definitely a great equalizer and calming mechanism. So yeah, it was kind of a slow burn, pun intended. But sometime after college, I would say I became what one might consider a regular cannabis user. And at that point was living in Vermont and primarily smoking bowls and consuming it via inhalation. Moving to California and having access to legal dispensaries has turned me into quite the gummy fanatic, though.
Okay. Well, let's talk about then like the term stoner because growing up, like I grew up in a small town and then when I was in high school, like I graduated in 2004, so quite a while ago, but there's still a major stigma about about weed. And I don't even think it was legal anywhere in the States at that point. But there's always like the stoner group of kids, and it's like, okay, these are the stoner kids that aren't going anywhere in life, and there's like that stigma attached to it. But it seems like now it's become a lot more common. I think most polls show that it's like most people are in favor of some form of legalization, whether that be rec or medicinal. But let's talk about then just stoner. Like, why do you have such strong feelings about that?
Yeah, I think I've always been a spacey creative individual, and throw a little weed on top of that and maybe I'm a little bit more spacey and creative, which I think is not the worst thing. But there's this thing with being a stoner where, yeah, you're like this deadbeat and you're not productive, and it's not helpful for cannabis culture to have that stereotype, because like I would consider myself a very high functioning weed user. I can take 5 milligrams, 10 milligrams, and go into a meeting and nobody would know the difference. I just personally feel like my brain cylinders are firing at a level that I enjoy. I enjoy brainstorming high. I enjoy the creative and workflow process and running with that effect. So yeah, I don't like it when you see like the classic SNL skit type thing of this stoner, and people have pointed at that skit, that whatever piece of media, and been like, oh, Shelby, that's you. And I'm like, that's not me. That's not, like, you're not seeing the whole picture. That's just a stereotype. So I don't know. I think that we could do a better job of not clumping all weed users into this weird I'm a stoner category. It's silly.
Yeah, I think I agree with that because it's I think there's just a broad spectrum in everything, right? Like within
Yeah.
even the trail running community, you'll have, or just take diet. I know it's very polarizing for everybody, but it's like you have people that are strictly they just eat meat, and people that are strictly vegan. So it's like within any community, you're gonna find like a broad spectrum of people, and there's always stereotypes, and like they can be funny, but they can also be very like I guess they can be a negative stereotype too, and cause issues.
Yeah, it doesn't help progress it doesn't help progress the what people perceive cannabis as, because it's just it's not, yeah, you don't want to, you're not emulating to be that stereotype. I don't know. Wait,
Yeah.
Derrick, are you a cannabis user?
I am. I like it for sleep a lot. I don't
Hmm.
necessarily enjoy that like that like I you probably hate the term, but like stoned feeling. I don't like that feeling honestly, but I do like to sleep well. And I sleep a lot better. And I've noticed that like my recovery is better and I wake up and I feel more refreshed versus just like, oh, I'm just groggy for the first 2 hours when I get up or something. And even more so after like a hard training day or like a race or something, I'm like, crap, my body just hurts and it helps to fall asleep versus like taking a bunch of ibuprofen that I know is just going to jack up my liver and my kidneys.
Yeah. So are you primarily using an indica then
Yeah.
for nighttime use? Yeah.
Yeah. There's one, I don't remember what brand it is, but it's an Arizona company. I live in Arizona and it has like CBN and CBD and other things in it. So I don't know all the scientific details about it. And I don't know, but like it does help me sleep really well. And I feel good taking it.
Good. Yeah, I
Um,
think it's great. I think the legalization of weed has been huge as far as researching all of these cannabinoids within the plant. And now you're starting to see CBN and CBG. Um, and it's just, yeah, it gives it a whole different profile.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. Like, not that I've been like super involved in like the marijuana or cannabis community, whatever you want to call it, but like it's been interesting to see it go from like, okay, here's something that just like stoner kids are using just as like just to get high and be whatever recreationally to people actually investing money and having major companies now that it's legal in a lot of places. Like it's still illegal federally, but legal in a lot of states. But it's cool to see like people taking time to invest in, okay, this can be very medicinal. It's not just for getting high. Like, how can we make this as a product to help people versus just being like a recreational thing? And I think that's super interesting and really cool. And I guess kind of similar things have been going on with like psilocybin mushrooms and stuff. And I think there's a lot of health benefits potentially to these things. And it's cool that like we're able to research them now. Like personally, I just think all drugs should be legal and or decriminalized, like decriminalized at the very least, because there's a lot of like benefits to them, and like historically through societies, like they've always used some sort of like narcotic or hallucinogen or something, and it's like it's weird that we legally we use alcohol. Is this like a, oh, everybody can drink it once you're 21 and it's not a big deal, but then like these other things are just like, no, like that's bad. It's wild to me.
Yeah, it's a really outdated way of thinking. At the end of the day, weed is a plant. It's a plant. You're talking about plant consumption.
Yeah.
It's just, it's silly to me when we know the dangers of alcohol. We probably all experienced a family member or friend who struggled with alcoholism, and it's really detrimental to our society. Yet we are shitting on people for plants, for weed. Really? Like, I don't know. So that's, yeah, that's where I stand on it. And I it's fun. I think at the end of the day, like for me, getting high while running is really fun, and it takes you to a different place. It helps kind of take the runner's high and amplify it faster, so I train hard. If I'm in a race, I want that race to feel like a celebration and fun. So I'm consuming primarily sativa when I'm running, not indica. I don't want to get sleepy.
You don't want to fall asleep in the middle of 100.
No, that would not be ideal.
Yeah. Well, you're speaking of that, and let's talk about Tunnel Hill because
Mm.
so Tunnel Hill, you're in the 100, right?
Yep, I ran the
Yeah.
100.
So it's like it's pretty flat, runnable. This year was looked pretty snowy and cold, at least in my opinion.
Yeah.
Um, so how'd it go? And then what was your cannabis consumption like during the race?
Yeah, Tunnel Hill went all right. I had a very specific time goal for this race. I wanted to qualify for Desert Solstice 24-hour and then get on the track this December and see what running a fixed time event on a track would be like. And I did not hit my time goal, which is frustrating, but okay. Ultimately, it was very cold, and I haven't been in that temperature in a very long time, let alone
Yeah,
train in it. I probably could have put layers on sooner. There's a lot that I could have done, but I will celebrate the fact that I ran the first 50 miles very, very perfectly paced in a very comfortable and enjoyable place. The race itself is it's a 25-mile stretch of rail trail where you start in the middle and you run south for 13.4 miles and then back to the middle, and then you run north for 12.6 and back down. And so it's this, you do that twice. So it's an interesting little vortex of a trail that gets created in that in that distance where you're pretty straight and it's pretty flat, and there's these trees all around you that are forming a tunnel, but then you're also running through tunnels and under highway overpasses, and it was trippy, and I definitely was consuming cannabis while out there. I think I lost track around 40 milligrams. So maybe 10 milligrams a leg type of thing was what I was doing. Yeah. I don't know. I just take it when I feel like I want it. I
yeah,
haven't gone too scientific with, I mean, dose is important. Like I'll tangent on that. Let's save proper cannabis dose and come back to that. But
okay.
Tunnel Hill, back to the vortex. So Tunnel Hill. There's these like giant Bigfoot statues in one part of it. And so you're getting these kind of weird peripheral things. Like you really feel like you're in a tunnel the whole time. And because I was so focused on this pace goal, I was just in it. And that was fun. I genuinely enjoyed that. That was what I was looking forward to the most, was finding this flow and just being in this thing. And yeah, you feel like you're in a thing when you're running that race. But yeah, started to fall apart right around mile 50. I hit the halfway point, saw Camille Herron on course, gave her this really awkward spinning hug because I didn't want to stop running, but I felt that I should hug her while I was running by her. So that was fun. I think I even closed my eyes for a second, like while we hugged and kept going. And just like giggled to myself for a while after that. But then hit mile 63 and was starting to get cold. I had said to somebody earlier in the day, sun's going to come out, and around 2 o'clock, it's going to be so beautiful. And the sun never really came out. It pretty much stayed this dark, cold day. And by cold, I've been in colder weather before. It was probably a steady 30 degrees all day. That's still cold. I don't know. Yeah, it could have been colder, but 30 degrees was not what I was planning on running in.
Yeah, that's not warm by any means.
No, and I should have put pants on at that point. I don't know. Yeah, I felt, I had convinced myself that I was comfortable. And I think that's where you're not always aware how many more calories you're burning when you're in a 30-degree environment. And so I think that's where that started to really catch up to me, and I just started to slow down and things started to get more painful. Not really a surprise. You're running 100 miles. Like this point's going to happen eventually. But I just never really, there was no comeback from it. I just kind of slowed down through the whole second half and stoked on it, not super stoked, got a little defeated there, but ultimately there was no stomach issues. I went for a run today. I'm 5 days out from the race. I feel good. I was pretty miserably sore for the first 24 hours after the race, which is a sign that I gave it a strong effort. 100-milers are going to hurt, and I would be concerned if I finished and was like running around the next day. So I think it was a good effort. It wasn't exactly what I wanted, but learned a lot, finished it, PR'd, had about a 30-minute PR. I'll take it. And we'll probably layer up more next year or next time I find myself in a situation where it's colder than expected at the start of a race.
For sure. And I don't know about you, but sometimes I forget that winter really exists. Like living in Southern Arizona, it's like, oh, it's like, yeah, it gets cool, like cold, I guess, in the mornings and night. But during the day, it's nice out. So it's like, I'll go up to Flagstaff and sometimes forget to pack a jacket. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm an idiot.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been working with the company Turtle for forever. It was my first real job. And they make hats and like neck warmers and stuff. So that's been helpful. Like that saved me a lot because I'll have a turtle fur tube just in my pack. I'll use it, wrapped around my arm to wipe snot or something. And then you find yourself at the top of a mountain where it's colder. And I'm like, oh, sweet, I have that turtle fur. I can like layer stuff. So I had a good layering thing going where I was wearing a neck tube and then one of their headbands, and my long sleeve that I was wearing had like a hood, so I could kind of, if I got cold, I could put the hood up for a little bit and trap some heat in, and then when I got too warm, I would ditch the hood, and if I got even warmer, I would just kind of like cock the headband up a little bit to allow more forehead space to let that heat come off of. And yeah, playing around with teeny bitty layer adjustments to stay comfortable over 18 and a half hours of running.
For sure. So you're saying you didn't really have any like nausea or stomach issues, and that's very common. Obviously, like I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but do you feel like taking an edible or maybe 40, 50 milligrams over the course of that 100 really helped with nausea and just, I don't know, just feeling like things are going through you properly?
People often ask, oh, do you take edibles while running because it helps with nausea? And no, I don't. For me personally, with consuming them while running, I don't, it hasn't saved me in the past. I've definitely messed up nutrition numerous times and have puked my way through races while on edibles, and it's not the edibles not helping or hindering in that sense. It's just the nature of trying to put your body through something a little crazy. So no, I think that I've been really trying to work on a good strategy for nutrition where I'm consistent and not throwing too many things at it. I had a really bad FKT in Joshua Tree. I did the Joshua Tree Traverse out and back almost a year ago. And while I got the FKT, again, it wasn't the time that I was hoping for because I spent 40 miles puking, and it was just because I was consuming everything. I at that point, I'm still novice in this sport. And at that point I knew, okay, you need calories and you need roughly this amount every hour and blah, blah, blah. But because I typically have what I would consider a fairly tough stomach as far as, I'm not gluten-free or anything like that. I was consuming like Tailwind and a cookie here and there, or some Scratch and Morton, and just did like too many things. So for my last couple of races, I've really tried to simplify the approach, and I've been using a lot of just Morton, salt chews, and water. And recently, Goo Roctane has been a nice little flavor add in. But I kept it really simple, and I think that's why my stomach was happy.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mainly do liquid calories, and then if I'm like at an aid station, like, oh, chips sound good or fruit sounds good, I'll do that. So I understand what you're saying. Like, I think people overcomplicate like running nutrition, and it's just like train with what you would use in a race. Like, I don't know, like don't eat a pizza before you go run or whatever. It's just like eat things that you know are going to make you feel good, and like your gut biome adjust to that, and then after a couple of days, like it's just used to that, and that's just gonna, like, I'm assuming anyways, not that I'm a scientist by any means, but like you're saying, like just helps. Like your body knows what it's expecting that stuff and it works well with it.
Yeah, yeah, and who knows? I doubt there's been much, if any, research done on how combining all of these different products, how they work together, and my experience in Joshua Tree was that they do not work well together.
Yeah, that sounds pretty miserable because isn't it like the out and back on that traverse like 100K ish?
Yeah, it was okay. Yeah, the whole thing was like 74 miles.
So you spent
Yeah,
about half of it puking.
yep.
Oh my
The first
gosh.
puke came right before the turnaround. Yeah, it
That sounds
was
pretty miserable.
it was beautiful. There was a full moon. It was Joshua Tree. I had a ton of friends out there, but man, yeah. I vowed to figure out nutrition after that race, and I've made a lot of progress. So yay, that's a good feeling to come away from a year later.
Was that before or after the speed project? So I remember reading one of your posts saying that your teeth hurt from eating that much sugar for that long. Uh,
Yeah, that was before the speed project, and it was Cocodona 250 was when the teeth
how
I
was it?
had I had like a lot of sugary beverages in the beginning of Cocodona, and I was getting that teeth thing. So I think my teeth did I was the speed project was a really cool project. It truly was a project. I had a great plan mapped out for that, and it worked. And yeah, it worked. I don't think my teeth hurt after the speed project.
Yeah. I must have confused the two then.
No, you're good. I probably was comparing the two experiences
Yeah.
in some post somewhere, but yeah.
Okay. Well, then let's talk about dosing because you wanted to
Mm.
come back to that. So you said you lost count after like 40 or so, but like, what would you do for like a normal training run? So you couldn't go out and do like a long run on the weekend. It's maybe 18 to 20 miles. Like, are you just
Yeah.
gonna take like an edible beforehand and one midway through, or how do you kind of manage that?
Yeah. So I think cannabis gets so if you talk to somebody who hasn't enjoyed it, there's a good chance they didn't take a great dose or a great strain. When they say like, oh, I felt really out of control, I couldn't feel my legs, and the world was wobbly. Um, maybe you had too much for what your body could process, and so that would, if you're somebody who's like on the fence with consuming weed in general before a run, whatever, just experiment with a little bit at a time and let that sink in. For Tunnel Hill, I've I've been doing it now for a while, so I'm not afraid. I've never overdosed on a I've never I just heard my husband laugh. I've never
Yeah, maybe I
overdosed.
should get his input on this. Like we were talking about before we started recording.
He's the one handing them to me. Like, oh my God. So like there's a post on my Instagram of him like, and here's her Morton and here's her gummy. So, and I'll say no if I'm not in the mood for it. So
Yeah.
I really do listen to my body in that sense. And I haven't overdosed during a race or a training run or running at all. Yeah. Maybe because you are processing it faster because you're doing this strenuous activity. But I don't know, man. The speed project probably consumed at least 200 milligrams over a couple of days. And
Oh, geez.
yeah, I think we should probably get somebody to do a drug test after one of these races. But I think I'm processing it pretty quickly because I'm not, yeah, hallucinating or, there's nothing crazy happening. I just am a little high.
Yeah.
So yeah, dose question, just kind of experiment slowly before a run. So this weekend I'll run with my Adidas runners group, and I'll probably take a 10 milligram wild gummy in the car on the way there. And I'll probably get there and have, you get there to a group run situation and there's a bunch of people. So it's kind of nice being a little high for that start. I think it helps with like social anxiety and just makes things more interesting. You look at things differently. And then we'll start running. I think we're doing a 10-mile run tomorrow Saturday.
Mhm.
And yeah, at some point I'll probably realize like, oh yeah, I took a gummy on the way here. Feel that. And that's kind of how it goes. Simple.
Do you not feel like, I don't know, just thinking, I guess, like, do you not feel that it affects your like your technical running abilities? Like, so say you're on a trail that's semi-technical or something, like you feel like you can cope with it just fine and it's not an issue.
Yeah, it's like for that, it's like bring it. Because I think that it helps you find a flow state. And when you're running a technical trail, you need to be looking ahead and really mapping out your line. I ski too. I forget that I ski now that I live in Southern California, but I do. And I skied a lot in Vermont. And that is also probably where my cannabis while doing activity thing really started to get mixed, because we'd take safety meetings on the mountain. So you'd go pull off into the trees and smoke some weed with friends, and then usually find a sweet fresh line of powder and hit it baked. And it was really fun. I mean, some of the most fun I've ever had outdoors for sure. So I feel that when I'm stoned running technical trail.
Interesting, because I feel like I would have issues personally. I guess obviously everybody's different, and but I feel like I would just not be able to like function properly because I already fall enough when I run. Maybe I don't pick my feet up enough, so I feel like having an extra variable in there would probably just be terrible for me. But maybe I should try it though.
Well, and that's why I think that it's silly to make cannabis a banned substance in the sport, because it doesn't work the same for everyone. You might fall on your face running high, and it just, yeah, it might not work for you. But
Yeah,
yeah, I think that it's not always a performance enhancer for everyone. And I wouldn't necessarily even call it a performance enhancer for myself. I've recently kind of tried to experiment not being high while running.
uh-huh.
I raced a 5K without consuming any edibles, and it went pretty well, but I don't think it would have gone. I don't think that being high would have changed that effect either. So for me, it really is about creating enjoyment in what I'm doing, and running's an extracurricular. It should be fun. I'm not going to get hammered. I'm not going to drink while running, but I can get stoned while running, and it creates that source of fun and happy mindset beyond what running already creates for me
For
sober.
sure. That's interesting because the other day, I think it was Tuesday, I was working on my truck and just having an issue where like I just couldn't get a piece out. I'm like, my hands are bleeding. I'm just like banging my hands against like the underbelly of my truck trying to get things to work. And I was so stressed out. I was like, I need to go run, and it's like getting dark now. But like it became another stressor in my life. So I kind of get that idea of like it's a fun thing. Like this isn't supposed to be work. Like why make running a chore when it should be something we look forward to? And so I feel like, and if I'm understanding you properly, it's like, okay, well, you can make running more enjoyable by taking this one substance. So like, why not do it? It's not a downside by any means.
Yeah, I like to think of, that FKT in Joshua Tree, for example, it was a fun day with friends out in a beautiful landscape. That's how I want to party. That's my party. Um, yeah. So that's how I keep running interesting too. Because otherwise, come on, we've all gone for a run and it can suck.
Yeah. Like when you're not in the mood and like a 5 mile run feels like it takes all day, then you're
Yeah.
just like, oh, kill me.
Yeah. We got to keep it enjoyable.
No, I 100% agree. I think it's a really good perspective. Like it just, if anything makes your run better, it's like do it. And I don't know. So let's talk about how much you know about THC versus CBD, because like CBD obviously is very popular now in a lot of like lotions and balms and things and capsules and whatever. But obviously it's not a psychoactive like THC is. But then there's also ways to combine them to get kind of like both effects. So like, can you kind of compare and contrast the two? I know you said earlier you're not a scientist nor an expert necessarily, but based off of what you know, what you've experienced in your own life.
Yeah, I really like the Floyds of Leadville products, and they have CBD pills that I could actually feel the effect of, whereas it does, from my experience, tend to be more subtle consuming like a CBD pill. And I would say that, I don't know, I think I like the more psychoactive effect personally, but CBD is a great place to start if you're looking for just that slight edge off as far as like anxiety or stress, pain. It just kind of, it's one of those things where you'll take it and kind of forget that you take it, and then at some point a few hours later you're like, oh, I feel good right now, just teeny, you might not notice it, but you might just be, yeah, just like a subtle little, hmm, this is
Mhm.
a little bit better. So that's my experience with CBD versus THC. Not much to say there, but I do like the
Okay.
Floyds of Leadville products. I had a neighbor. We were living in Ventura, California before moving into the craziness of LA. And my amazing neighbor in Ventura has a company called Blue Sage, and it's a THC topical healing cream. Well, topical healing cream also is THC. Haha. But she uses THC in her product, not CBD. There might be both in there, but it's specifically unique because it's a THC bomb. And I love that. I use that on my ankles all through the speed project because they tend to be what gets sore first. And I genuinely do feel like there's that the topical application of THC, there's something to it. Your skin's absorbing those cannabinoids. So yeah, if you're looking to experiment with a topical THC, check out Blue Sage. I think she's on Instagram. She's starting to pop up in dispensaries, but it's this really rad Ventura hippie lady who has crafted like a really quality concoction. Like, if you start to get a shin splint or something, like just rub it in there and it'll ease the pain.
So are topicals mainly, at least how they're marketed, are they marketed for like pain management, inflammation versus getting high?
That's my understanding.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense. But then again, I guess like too, like your skin is just a giant organ. So like whatever it's absorbing, like I don't know, maybe there could be some like kind of high effect from it, but I have no idea.
Yeah. Not that I've experienced. She
Yeah.
gave me some bath salts that she made, and that was lovely. Like soaking in a THC bath, and I didn't feel mentally high after that. I felt very relaxed.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Cool. Oh, it's cool. There's
Yeah.
different ways to, I guess, consume it or apply it to your life, if you want to say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fun to experiment with for sure. And like we said earlier, it's great that it has become legal in most states. Is it in all states yet? I don't even know.
It's not in all states. I think it's in like
Everywhere.
30 plus. Like, I'm surprised it's still federally illegal or like federally schedule two, three, whatever. I don't know how they
Yeah.
classify narcotics, but it's kind of
Yeah, like
ridiculous
you
to
can't
me.
be a postman and consume weed.
Yeah,
They
any
drug test
federal
you.
job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is just sad. I feel like if I was a postman, especially in Southern California, walking around.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, I think like kind of like going back to what we talked about earlier, just like the benefits for like people with PTSD, for example, like all these veterans and people that have seen really horrific, tragic things and are coping with it. They can't use marijuana for the most part or cannabis, and so they're using alcohol or like other like really heavy, gnarly drugs, and they could be coping a lot better using some sort of cannabis product. And I don't know, it's really sad to me.
Yeah, it's really it's just so interesting how polarized the opinions around it are still to this day. So
Yeah.
I personally want to make a commitment to talking about it more, and should probably do more research so I can talk about it better. Honestly, if there's one thing I learned from this conversation with you, is like I should know more, because it's what I like. And I want other people to experience, not be afraid to try it too, and not feel like they're a stoner or going to be looked down on for taking 10 milligrams of THC before their next group run.
For sure. Yeah, and I think as I don't know, maybe as we age and the younger generation comes up, I think they're going to be a lot more open to it, and they already are, obviously. And it'll be interesting to see how that changes. And I don't know, for better or for worse. Like I think it's all for the better, honestly.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is. It is. I think we need more research around it too. And I think that the more we dig into it, we'll find that it can be extremely beneficial with cancer treatments and all of these other ailments. And yeah, how can we implement this natural solution more? Again, it's a plant.
Yeah, and yeah, and speaking of like a natural solution, like for pain, for example, like when I started running, like the joke was like, I'll take vitamin I, ibuprofen. It's like, okay, that stuff is terrible for you. It causes there's tons of just like research about it that just shows how awful it is for your body in general. And then when you take it chronically and you're just masking some sort of injury, because it's not really fixing a problem, it's just kind of masking or kind of reducing inflammation, which can be bad in itself, depending on how you look at it or what at what point of the injury you're in. So like having something like an edible or smoking a joint or something that's going to help with your pain and it's natural. It's like I see that as a win-win. Like I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Definitely. And post 100 miler, I mean, how did you feel after your last 100 miler?
Well, I've never ran 100 before, but
You haven't? I
I've
just
never ran 100.
assumed, Derrick, damn, I just kind of assumed that you've done it all. Well, you typically feel pretty wrecked. Like you just came out of surgery or something. Just think everything just hurts. And
Mhm.
uh I think that's where I appreciate weed the most sometimes, is like that next morning in the hotel, just maybe we go up to like 20 milligrams a shot there and just kind of chilling out.
Yeah.
That's where you could go with like an indica or a hybrid and just simmer, recover, you know.
Yeah.
Okay, we got to sign you up for 100 miler.
I know. I was talking to a friend of mine. He was like, "Oh, you're just a poser." I'm like, "Why?" He's like, "Because you've never ran 100 before." I was just like, "Oh, geez." Like, I ran plenty of 50Ks and FKTs that are longer, but I've never done an actual like. I've never raced 100 before. But
It
I
is
probably should.
and Tunnel Hill reminded me of that. It's its own, each race distance has its own thing. And
Mhm.
yeah, 100 is it's a little bit longer time to stay on task. And I think had I had the first 50 miles mapped out really well, and the first 50 miles went really well. I need to start trying to predict the back half of the race better.
Yeah, that's hard though, because not like we just talked about. I've never ran 100 before, but even in shorter races, like say 100K, it's like you have to very well manage that time and distance and everything, or things will fall apart. I guess even in a shorter event like a 5K, like
Yeah,
yeah,
it's running. I have this video of my friend finishing the New York City Marathon, and he is a super strong dude. He was going for a very probably an OTQ, and he didn't get it, and he's just like still running through the finish but deflated, and some guys come up behind him and like running all goofy past him, and I don't know, I was like, David, this video of you finishing your 26-mile race is pretty much how the end of my 100-mile race went. Just stretch it out a little bit longer.
yeah,
Oh, it's yeah. And I think that that's something that I love about running, is that there are all these different disciplines, yet there are a lot of common themes within each of them where we can relate. I never ran a sub-3 marathon. This guy has, but now I can say, like, your level of feeling deflated at the end was pretty on par with where my brain was at the end of this past 100.
Yeah, and that just sucks, I think, with any goal you have, whether it's like qualifying for the Olympics or the trials, I should say, or just not getting your PR. I guess if you wanted to qualify or get an invite to Desert Solstice, it's like kind of the same thing. You have this major goal in mind, and it doesn't matter if it's like a 14:35K or whatever, a 14:30 100 or whatever. Like it's still a goal, and you've worked so hard for it, put in a ton of effort. And in your case, you flew across the or halfway across the country to go run, and then it wasn't what you expected.
Yeah, which I've come to realize when I got into running, it was through my first marathon in 2013. And after that race, was like, I kind of want to try to qualify for Boston. And it took over 7 marathons to finally qualify for Boston. I was just going at my own little trajectory. I'd run a marathon a year, and it wasn't a super big focus, but I had this goal. And I recognize that even when putting out this goal for Desert Solstice, I said, it took 7 marathons to qualify for Boston. It could take 700s to qualify for Desert Solstice, and I'm ready to do that work. But the start is putting the goal out there and saying, this is what I want to go after. And so I think I've worked on, like, mentally accepting that these are all building blocks. I am building something. I don't know what it's gonna look like in the end yet, but these are all building blocks to some really great racing in the next 10 years. So I think we're hard on ourselves, runners, and, like, let's all pat ourselves on the back for building blocks.
For sure, because even you go out and have a garbage run and or whatever, like it's still part of that process. And it's like you have a garbage run, then you realize what it's like. I can run through nausea, or I can run through a pain in my knee or something, or even just having a bad attitude for a couple hours. Like, and I think that applies a lot to racing, and we don't really look at it that way. At least I don't in general, but all those things pay off. It's like the struggle is there, and then it's important because everything is a struggle. And like your race is, especially a longer event, it's going to have some sort of issue crop up.
Yeah, and that's the kind of the exciting part. You toe that starting line, and you don't know what battle you're about to face in a few hours. You can't predict it, but you can have as many things in your little toolkit, mentally and physically, to combat it when it comes. And I think just keep getting better at it the more you practice.
For sure, 100% agree. So instead of just like talking about all the 100% positives of edibles and smoking weed, like what are kind of the negative side effects of it? Because like, and I guess in general terms, we should talk about it, because I know people like yourself that are high functioning with it. Then I've met other people that's like they take a hit and they're just like out of it for the rest of the day and they're completely worthless. So like, what do you think are some of the cons or potential problems?
I think improper dosing is number one. We've all had a friend who's taken a cookie or brownie from somebody and then just had a really, really, really awful experience. And it's because there's a lot of product out there that is homemade or hasn't been properly tested and labeled. And I think that can be a big turnoff if you are one of those individuals that experienced it. One of my there's 2 times in life that I can recall not being really stoked with how high I was. One was after taking an edible that a friend who had just come back from Colorado gave me, and I had no idea. At that point, I was just a casual ski bum weed smoker, so I'd never had any those legal edibles. And I actually like didn't want to ski anymore after I took it. I just wanted to sit by a fireplace. Like it was probably, I'd have to guess now, it was probably an indica. And yeah, it totally demotivated me. That's negative. I didn't like, I mean, I did find a fireplace to sit in front of, and I did like that when I got there, but that wouldn't have been good if that happened during the 100-mile race. Would have been out for sure. And then one time in college, I just like got too high and had just negative thoughts. And so yeah, I think it just comes down to consuming too much. Also a negative is obviously drug testing. If I did get on the track in Desert Solstice, which I will eventually, as long as that goal continues to excite me. And then I did say qualify for the US 24-hour team. There's a good chance. I haven't looked into what their rules are. My plan is probably going to be to just see what happens as it happens and let it unfold. But there's a good chance that they'd be like, you can't qualify. You have cannabis in your system. And I'm waiting for that moment to happen where I get shut down because of weed in the sport. So yeah, if you're somebody with a job at drug testing or running at a level where you're getting tested, that would be a downfall.
Yeah, because from what I understand, like, and obviously it varies on the individual, but it can take like a couple weeks to even like a couple months to completely clear out of your system, right?
Yeah, I almost had a job. I almost had a job that I was going to get a hair follicle test for, and I remember Googling if there's any way to mask it, and there's this whole step of like soak your hair in laundry detergent and then apple cider vinegar and like all of these things. And thankfully I ended up not getting that job or getting drug tested because I don't think the laundry detergent or apple cider vinegar would have done anything. So yeah.
Did you ever watch the show Workaholics?
Yeah.
You remember the episode where they're about to get drug tested randomly and they had just like smoked a bowl that morning or something? All three of them did. And so they're trying to figure out ways to detox, and it's really funny because I think they take like a mass amount of beta alanine or something like that, but it makes your skin all red and itchy. It's pretty funny.
I need to revisit that show. It's been a while, but yeah, that rings a bell.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird things that you can try to do to mask it, and I don't think that other than like a urine sample where you're taking somebody else's urine, like it's probably not going to happen for you. It's in your system for a while. Pretty sure because it lives in your fat cells.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. Like it gets into your fat tissue and then kind of hangs out for a while.
Yeah.
But then again, we're both not experts, so
Not experts. No, and the hair fall. I actually was talking to somebody who works for a drug testing facility, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna keep you as a resource for the future. But he was saying that yeah, it's in your hair, like deep. Yeah, it's all the way in there. It's
That's
crazy.
crazy. I've never even really thought much about that because I've always freelanced for the most part. And so it's like, I don't have to worry about that ever. And yeah, I guess it's an issue though and causes problems. So
Yeah,
yeah,
glad it's not my problem.
for real. Well, then, is there anything else that you'd want to like bring up or mention that we haven't talked about?
Ooh,
Everything's out in the open right now. So
yeah. Hey, this was fun. No, I think if you are somebody who's interested in consuming weed in life, running, sleeping, feel free to shoot me a DM on Instagram. I'm at ShelbzF, SHELBZZF. I would love to suggest the products that I've tried. And if you're somebody who is a little judgmental on the topic, well, maybe try to give it another look because it's a plant and it's doing a lot more good for the world than alcohol is. So that's where I stand.
all right, we'll wrap it up there then. with
It's
where you
really-
stand.
yeah. Yeah, I'm excited to see what happens in the sport, and hopefully it does become more, it okay, one more thought,
Okay.
Derrick. All right. It's a weird thing because it always has been this hush hush, like, haha, I'm stoned, like you're whispering to a friend type of thing. Like, if you ever see me at a race and you're stoned, like, please come over and tell me, because I think like, and there's that game, the computer game The Sims, where you'd have like a green dot over your head or something. I don't know, I never played it, but I wish that in life that you could be in a room or a social setting and see the other high person, because I don't know, there's something fun about, there's something, it's a bonding thing too, like breaking bread over a table, eating an edible together and going for a run. Like, I don't know, you just like open up and yeah, like let's just talk about it more. Why hide it?
For sure, I agree. It can be a social lubricant. Like a lot of people say alcohol is, and it's like a bonding thing that we all have. And it's if you want to like get high with somebody and go for a walk and talk, like that can be a great thing if you create good connections out of it. And if it's not a detriment to your life, like that's an amazing thing.
Yeah, versus this hush hush weed culture where you feel anxious because you are the high one in the room, and like, oh no, they're gonna know I'm weird and stoned. Um, like that's not fun for anyone. So we
Sure.
need to just kind of be more open and communicative about it.
Cool. 100% agree. But it was good chatting with you. And we'll have to chat soon and catch up. And maybe I'll see you Desert Solstice sometime.
Yeah, I think I'll be there for work this year,
Okay.
contemplating Black Canyon. So
Ooh, I'm signed up. So
yeah,
yeah.
hit me up if you want a edible while you're running. I usually have them in my little baggie with my salt chews. So
Maybe I should experiment with that beforehand versus just ruining a race.
hey, that could get you that golden ticket. You never know.
Maybe that's the one thing I'm lacking. That'll make me a great runner.
TBD. Let's follow up on this after I slip you that gummy.
Yeah, but Black Canyon, what would you even call it? I don't even know. Like just follow up after Black Canyon, episode
Yeah.
2 on weed, and yeah, we'll make it happen.
Perfect. Great.
All right. Well, I'll talk to you soon. Yeah, bye.